I'm going to talk about a love story about young adults that I had written um, for young adults. And I hear you cry, what's an old curmudgeon like you writing about young love for? But anyway, I really didn't want to write a story. I wanted to make a film. And well, this is what came out, so be patient with me and let's see where it takes us. I started out writing a simple story. I thought it could be an allegory, a parable I'll tell you on the silver screen about a young boy and girl barely 18. But writing a screenplay is rather hard. If you're not careful and not on your guard, every single dialogue line can end up like a nursery rhyme. I struggled and labored and gave up the fight, realized, hell, if I have to write, I might as well tell the story in verse. It might work. It couldn't get worse. So here goes. Here's the story of Shakuntala. Not the Oggan one, what I call the Oggan Shakuntala. This is more modern day, young, lovely girl. Here goes. This is the protagonist talking about her. I stood in front of Shakuntala's door, wondering what the hell I was there for. I'd never get in past the welcome mat. Her dreadful old father made sure of that. Each time I met her, I was inspired to share my secrets, my heart's desires. She'd come for a stroll to the nearby park if I swore I'd get her home before dark. I talked of art, literature, and love, she of astronomy and the stars above. Sometimes our ideas found a meeting point, at others they seemed slightly out of joint. And once, when we reached a point of disagreement, when her father's views were forced with vehemence, reactionary thoughts that got my goat rammed down my unappreciative throat. Discussing the state of the earth, she said, in a short time the world will be dead. That sounds like the trash your father would spout. Does he know what he's talking about? The trouble with her was her honesty, which led to a certain animosity. She'd go home and share the debates we had with her mother, brother, and her irate old dad. I stood in front of Shakuntala's door, wondering what the hell I was there for. I never got in past the welcome mat. Her father always made sure of that. I took the brass knocker firmly in hand. It slipped and banged, damn these nervous sweat glands. What should have been a polite knock on wood, put to test my rather doubtful manhood. The bang echoed loudly across the skies. My shoes grew wings. I was ready to fly, but sound we know. It travels faster than feet. The door swung open. I couldn't retreat. The evil man stood there smiling at me. I could feel the fear creeping up my knees. They shook and shivered and made rattling sounds. His evil smile soon became an evil frown. You no good bum, you wastrel layabout. You think you can, without hassle or doubt, sweep my own Shakuntala off her feet, spend the rest of your life on Easy Street, eh? Baba, please, I heard a voice from inside. Start being Jekyll and stop being Hyde. We're just going out for an evening walk, some tea, some coffee, and maybe small talk. This boy says I don't know what I talk about. I do know what's done when boys take girls out. If she comes back with one hair out of place, I'll change the geography of your face. Well, when confronted by loud bullies, I find a certain firm stiffening of the spine. It produces a swirling life energy. Some call it muscle, others call it ki. He recognizes it. He steps back, not too sure how he should counterattack. For that brief moment he lets down his guard. She slips out and we race across the yard. And in a voice much weaker than what it was, she'd better be back for dinner because if she's not eating soup by 8 o'clock, I'll break both your legs. You will never walk. We laughed. We laughed all the way to the coffee shop. She liked her coffee cold, I liked mine hot. We chased a plate of fish fries and mustard with a split banana and a thick custard. This relationship wasn't a cakewalk. One eye on her face and one on the clock. It was driving me completely insane. Her dad's not here, and he's still being a pain. We had left at 5. It was 6:30 now. With buses to change, I didn't know how we'd get home in time to beat the curfew. Take a cab, I guess. What else could I do? Let's puchka at Vivekananda Park. With cabs to pay for, that's way off the mark. Don't worry, she said with a wicked smile. That's for one round. It will be worth your while. Though they were puchkas, they looked like puris, stuffed with spices which in all their fury attacked the senses and manners complex that reminded me of earth-moving sex. We hailed a cab that refused to drive us. The driver began kicking up a fuss. We begged and pleaded and cajoled and bribed for a bumped-up price. He gave us a ride. She bent to get into the back and paused. I was halfway in and I stopped because she looked at me and with lust in her eyes, she twerked me 3 times anti-clockwise. I'm not going into graphic detail. If I did, I'd end up going to jail. She wasn't of age, much to my sorrow, though she would turn 18 on the morrow. We reached home without a hair out of place. She rubbed a lipstick smudge off from my face. We agreed to meet for a birthday date, and I rang her bell at 8:01. The door swung open, thank heavens. Her mother stood there. Where her father was then, I didn't care. Her father wants you for dinner, she said. I couldn't do that. I'd rather be dead. So far the evening had been a breeze. I declined. I made my apologies. The mother went in. We said our goodbyes. She touched me and said, button up your flies. That night I walked slowly, 11 miles. I reached home happy. I was wreathed in smiles. Tomorrow for her, a fresh year begins. But I find myself all in needles and pins. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, when I was writing it, I actually did enjoy it because it flowed out quite naturally from old memories and from old thoughts and from many things that I'd heard and read and seen. I wrote it just for fun, and then there's this person I ran across, a guy called Dipankar Mukherjee of Readomania, and he said, I don't care, I want to publish this in any other stuff you've got in poems and poetry. So I then took out most of my other stuff and started working on it, editing it. And I came up with this book called Some Mad Poems, Some Sad Poems, and a Love Story in Verse. It's available on Amazon as a hard copy, and also I think on Twitter, I'm not sure. But help yourself, see if you can find it. I had a great time working on the finished product. I think I had a better time working on the finished product than when I was actually writing them. The editing was fun because old memories kept coming back, and how you just include them in, and then you have to get the meter right, but you know what I mean. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, do write in and tell us, and maybe I'll read the next few chapters out to you in another month or so. In the meantime, hey, have a great February or March or whenever this is going to come out. For the moment, goodbye.